And so when you hear how Hawaiians are deeply connected to the land and the nature and caring, it all starts with this plant right here. Because you'll never be able to get all the lumps if you add water too fast. So now all you're trying to do is get rid of all the lumps. However way you want to make poi, you just add water to that and you mix. You can mix by hand to whatever consistency. But traditionally it was all this kind of river rock.
You would like.
The second part's making it smooth again. That's where the scraping of the meat comes in.
Just water? Yeah, just water. Been here 11 years now, and one of my collateral duties is presenting cultural programs to you folks. And so this program is called ʻIkehana no E'ao, which is experiencing the skillful works of my ancestors. And today we're doing Kuʻi Kalo. We are taking the kalo plant, the corm, think of it as a potato, and we're pounding it, or kuʻi, that's the Hawaiian word for pound, kuʻi. And we're gonna make pa'iai. Pa'iai is the stage before you add all the water to dilute it down to poi. Now pa'iai, if done correctly, can last for 6 months. So imagine when my ancestors migrated over the Pacific Ocean, it took them a long time to travel. And so they would make pa'iai, so it's this real thick paste. And they would wrap it up in a tea leaf. And then they would take it with them on their travels. Let's talk about the story of this plant because it's pretty cool. We call it the Kumalipu story, which talks about how everything began. It started in darkness, then there was light, and it was on and on and on and on. But somewhere in that story comes this plant. And so the grandparents of this plant, the father is called Wakea, which is Sky Father. So we're talking elemental forms now, so Sky Father. And the mother is Papahanaumoku, or Mother Earth. Well, these two elemental forces had a union, and from that union, a child was born. And she was of a female energy, and her name was Ho'opokukalemi. And she was said to be very beautiful and attractive. And when she became an adult, she had a child. However, that child was a stillborn. And the name of that child was Haloa Nakalau Kapalili, which means frail, withered leaf. So the mom buried her in the ground, and depending on the stories that you read, you know, she wept over the gravesite, obviously, and her tears watered the area where her stillborn was laid. And from that burial site, the Kalo grew. She then had another child, and this time the child was born strong and healthy. And his name was Haloa. That is the first Hawaiian. And Haloa was taught to care for his older brother, Haloa Nakalau Kapalili. And so when you hear how Hawaiians are deeply connected to the land and the nature and caring, It all starts with this plant right here. At one time, there was more than 300 different varieties of Hawaiian Kalo. Now there's about 86 total. But it's getting harder and harder to keep those varieties going. A lot of these varieties are in the forest, along river banks. They're growing wild. This particular variety is called, I forget already. Ele makoko, mahalo. Ele means dark or even black. So you can see the stem here, or the ha is dark. It produces purple poi, like lehua, which a lot of people know. The leaf is edible, the corm is edible, but you have to cook it. Because there's this crystals that makes your throat very itchy if you don't cook it. I do have at home a Japanese variety that you can eat raw, and it's called zuiki. And traditionally, when Japanese would make sashimi, they would line the bowl of the sashimi platter with that particular variety. Now, because it's hard to find zuike, they use cabbage. So, and then I have some, if you guys live here, you guys want to take home, it's already starting to roots. So when you plant this in the ground, you want to plant it at least 8 inches in the ground, in dry land. This is dry land variety. What's interesting about Kalo is the wetland variety, that's called the lo'i variety, where it's growing the water in the mud. You can take that plant from that environment and you can plant it in the dry land, but you cannot take it back into the wetland. It will not grow, it will rot for some reason. It changes the composition of the plant. But yeah, so you want to plant it at least 8 inches down. What I do is I pound banana stump and I put it in the ground first. There's moisture and it'll decompose and become fertilizer. And then I mix cow manure with soil.
Can it be chicken manure?
Can, but use it sparingly because
Yeah.
chicken manure is strong.
Burn
Yeah. So whatever you have.
Okay.
I have cattle at home, so I use
Ah.
my cattle's dung.
Can you use that in pots?
Yeah, you can grow this in a pot too. And what's going to happen is, yeah, it's going to grow up like this. And then when you start seeing the corm stick out of the dirt, you want to put more dirt. Dryland taro would usually take 10 months to 12 months. If you're planting it up here in this elevation, maybe even a little longer. And how you plant it is important too in relationship to the sun. So sun rises from the east, sets to the west. So if you want a lot of keikis or oha shoots, right? And so you want to face the row towards the sun. So it follows the track of the sun. Yeah. If you want the corn to grow big, then you face the row that way. So it all depends what you want. I planted 4 in a space probably as long as this bench, yeah, Jody?
Yeah. It was just about that big.
And we probably have 30 or more inside there.
Those all came from 4.
Because you get 1 shoot, 2 shoot, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And so then you break that off and then you replant that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can plant them any time of year.
Any time of year. I follow the moon cycle. So Hilo moon, I think, is in a few days.
Yeah.
Thursday, tomorrow. Guess what I'm doing?
Same here.
Yeah. And like I said, I have some. We see all the connections. Yeah. Papa. And this is called Papa Kuʻi, Papa Kuʻi, the stone. Never lay it down. Well, I stand corrected. Depending on who you learn from, I learned never to lay it down. Never let it moy. You always keep it upright. This is a male version, as you can see the resemblance. And then this is the female version. You can see the resemblance. This is hard. I tried. This is very uncomfortable. It's hard on your forearms. Yeah. This was found a lot on Kauai.
Yeah.
This variety. This design.
Are they used for different, at different stages of how?
No.
Or by
Just
so,
my cat knows how, so you guys can watch her. Or you just wanna wet in the area where you're gonna cook me. Yeah, you follow along.
I'm right-handed, I can use one of them.
Yeah. So they. The wood is dry now, so it'll suck up the water.
What kind of wood is this?
That's his mango.
Okay. So I got a whole board, but not as big, maybe a third, but I think it's coal. Is that okay?
Well, you use what you get, but koa has a resin.
Yeah.
It has a sap that is toxic,
Okay.
and so it's not preferred.
Okay.
The two woods that are mostly preferred is ulu, the number one. Number one is ulu, and then mango.
Okay.
Traditionally, we would use the opihi knife to scrape the skin off. And then the next step, what is the next step? Ihi, so that was where we clean it even finer. Now the next step is called naha. Naha is when you take this edge, what is it called over there?
Ka'e.
Ka'e. And you basically, you're gonna hold it, you're gonna hold the palm with your left hand, because you don't want your right hand to get dirty. And with the ka'e, you're gonna cut it up in small pieces. Smash it in small pieces. Just break it up in small pieces. Yes, sir.
That's good.
Left or right?
Yeah, it's gonna wanna run over.
Alright.
If you don't want negative energy going into whatever you're making in life in general.
I'm thinking about the lalos.
There you go. Yeah, you may just think happy thoughts, be positive. Okay, now that you broke it up, that is called moku moku. Moku moku. Does anyone know what moku is? What's the name of moku? Oh, I forgot. Islands. Right? So it's like little islands. Yeah? Moku moku. Now is when you're gonna start slowly working it, Uncle, yeah.
There you go.
With the,
The bottom.
Yeah, with the whole
mullet.
Putty. Now when things start getting, if it starts to stick to the board or stick to the stone, you can use your scraper and scrape off. you'll never be able to get all the lumps if you add the water too fast. So now all you're trying to do is get rid of all the lumps. However way lumps out. One technique that works good is you pound and then
Pound and smush.
because it's gonna suction cup.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
you pound
Suction. Goodbye.
and
Pound. And then when you add the water.
then when it starts to stick to the stone,
Yeah.
then you give the hand inside, you shake out the excess water, and you rub the stone and go in.
Okay.
And don't hit the board.
As it gets ready for water. What's all those little white things?
That's all the, gotta get all that chip right back and get all those little lumps.
Form it in any shape.
Well, you wanna bring it close to you so you're not reaching
Oh,
far.
that makes sense.
If you wanna make poi, you just add water to that and you mix. You can mix by hand to whatever consistency you like. And there is truth with the 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger poi. The thicker the poi, the more value you have. Like, so if I'm making poi for someone and it only takes them 1 finger to put the poi and it not to fall off, then I value that person high. If someone needs 3 fingers, it means it's watery and I don't value that person. So that's how people would know their status amongst each other within the community. Obviously the king. There's your plate. When you're ready, Uncle, there's your plate.
Maybe almost massage it.
Yeah.
Full board just
Yeah,
take.
Doesn't seem like it would get much bigger, but
Yeah, you will.
it will now. This is small.
Good.
What's the difference? Yep.
Oh, it's just thick, yeah?
There's a little bit.
So it's like candy, yeah? It's like, you can just hold it, it's not gonna run down your hand.
Okay. Which is like the more hardened color ones, they have less water, but they're more thick. But with pa'i'ai, if it's done correctly, you can actually store it for a couple
There
months.
you go, there's your point.
And then poi, as you store it, it'll ferment on its own and it'll get more sour. And so my grandmother loved sour poi. I like fresh poi. I can't handle sour poi. But it doesn't taste like
What you wanna
anything.
do,
It's
Uncle,
really
you
nice
wanna
because
wet
you
your
mash it
scraper
to make it sweet.
so that thing no scrape, no stuck, you see, there's no
Oh,
stuck there.
yeah.
So these are made
or jam.
in form of starch. And you combine it with fish or other vegetables that you were growing at the time.
See, no stuck.